Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing? I hope we're all very well, wherever in the world you're joining us from this evening. We have a pretty full comment section already, by the sounds of it. I think if you have come over from the lovely Stacey's live stream there with Barry a few minutes ago. So I can see people have dumbbells in their glass. Johnny, Long Beach, MY. Someone had Pierce Lions. Michael has Pierce Lions in his glass. Evening, Barry. How are you from your previous live stream? All good?
How are you getting on?
I'm doing the very best.
That was a great welcome you gave everybody. A great welcome. I think you've nailed the intros. You're going to be in charge of intros from here on out. You're much more welcoming than I am.
Do you think so? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it depends on how much whiskey I've had, in fairness. Depends on how big the smile stretches on my face, you know.
Well, it's going to be a long Shebeen tonight. The smile could get bigger as there's a lot to cover, a lot to get into tonight.
There's a lot to get into tonight. Good bit of new releases this week in the Irish whiskey world. Fair bit of Irish whiskey news as well. We're diving into County Down, which is a relatively, I would say, overlooked county in Ireland. And certainly so. And basically the outcome of this, I have an ulterior motive, everyone. I've been tormenting Barry for the past few weeks, suggesting that we do a County Down exclusive whiskey bus next year. So we'll gauge everyone's opinions on that after we've spoken about the many wonderful distilleries in County Down and see how we get on.
So this is Lauren's pitch. She's making the case for a week-long experience. 7 nights in the one hotel, is it? Is that the goal?
7 nights in the one hotel in Belfast. You can make it your home for the week. I'm quote unquote from you, Barry, in your last live stream there with Stacey. Make it your home for as long as you can. So you just solidified my thoughts exactly for a whiskey bus, 7 nights in one place.
Look, as I said to you before the live stream, all we want to do is get more people closer to the people, the places, the pours of Irish whiskey. So no idea is a bad idea until it's a bad idea. So it's all on you to make the pitch, convince these lovely people that it's worth attending and joining, and then we do it.
Challenge accepted. I already have an itinerary half complete with possible options. I literally did it one evening just off the top of my head, a rough itinerary pulled together, and it looks pretty good already. So watch this space is all I'll say.
Lauren needs to be reminded occasionally that these things that are 2 years off are less important than the thing that's happening in 7 days' time, which is the launch of a whole new whiskey company that we're trying to magically fashion out of a lump of wood and turn it into a whiskey company in a very short space of time.
Well, in fairness now, a few of the experiences that we're going live with are based around County Down distilleries. So, I'm just taking what we've already established and fine-tuning it a little bit for a whiskey bus. Brian has my full support there. There we are. Thank you, Brian.
Listen, everyone is a supporter until the invoice comes.
We'll worry about that when it happens. Worry about that next year, not right now.
We do have, before we get to County Down and before we try and sell you something for 3 years out, there's a distillery, or there's a whiskey bus that we're going to be launching on next week's Shebeen, which is our third whiskey bus 3. And Anthony will join us next week, the three of us. Actually, we haven't told him. We should probably tell him he'll be joining us. But Anthony will be joining us next week, and we'll launch our next whiskey bus. We'll tell you, we'll reveal the itinerary. We'll reveal probably between 6 and 12 experiences, depending on how next week shapes out for us and getting things sorted, but additional experiences that we'll go live with. But we'll talk more about Irish whiskey experiences later. I shouldn't be talking too much. As you might tell from my name on the screen, I'm Lauren's assistant today. She's running the show. She put this whole thing together tonight. This is her Shebeen. I'm just the audience member that happens to be on screen. So I'm going to hand it over to you and just be your support, whatever you need tonight.
Absolutely. That sounds good. What's in your glass, by the way, Barry? You haven't told us what's in your glass tonight.
Oh, what a great question to ask. This is happens to be our next Stories and Sips Club whiskey, which we'll talk about in a little bit, from Cologne, 4-year-old Cologne, single pot still, which we'll give a bit of information on that throughout the night, no doubt.
We absolutely will.
What are you drinking? What about yourself?
So I have two County Down whiskies in front of me. So I have your very own Stories and Sips 19-year Dumbbells release, All the chat of it last week just put me in the mood for another drop this weekend, so I had to go with that one. And I also have probably one of my favorite whiskies, not going to lie, especially at the price point, is the Cologne Rum and Raisin. And I saw a few people post about it this week in Irish Whiskey Fans of America as well, so that influenced my other choice tonight. So with the amount of talking we're doing, we'll see if we can actually manage to get through them.
Have you poured yourself one now already?
Already here.
Okay, because you know from talking, you don't get to drink when you talk. So we have to put in some spots for you to be able to have a chat as well.
We do. Even to have a drink, you mean? I'm the one doing all the chatting.
Oh, that's right, yeah. We need to stop the chatting so you can have a drink. That's right.
Absolutely. So first up then, everyone, there has been a couple of new releases this week, which are launched in Ireland and gradually making their way out across key global markets, and one which is exclusive to the US as well, specifically Texas. So the first of those releases is from Teeling Distillery. I think you'd agree, Barry, I love the colour of that label on the bottle. It's really striking. So this is another release as part of their Explorer series. The last one was the Brazilian oak cask. So this is a 15-year-old blend. So it's aged in ex-bourbon casks for 11 years. And then 4 years, I'm going to butcher this. If anyone knows a better pronunciation of this, please let me know. Mugi Soshu or Muji Soshu casks. Barry, I don't know I think that's how it's pronounced.
I'm not even going to attempt that. I'm going to leave you be the star of pronunciation tonight.
I'm going to go with Shoshu just because that's the easier latter half of that pronunciation. So 11 years in ex-bourbon and then 4 years in the Muji Soshu cask. So Soshu apparently is the spirit in Japan. Apparently it's more consumed than sake wine. Yep. Apparently it's the spirit. So it's crafted from mugi, which is Japanese for barley. So it's fermented using the traditional fermentation methods, the traditional koji fermentation process, before it is then distilled in a pot still. And then it's typically matured in Japanese oak casks. So the result is a very distinct, very light, exotic fruity spirit, which is unique to Japan. So this is the casks that the whiskey has finished in for 4 years. So it's at a 46%, which seems to be the sweet spot. And it is initially going to be available in Ireland and then rolled out, as I said a minute ago, across the key global market. So it's €110, which I think is unbelievable value for a 15-year-old whiskey.
That's at the lower end. Yeah, that's at the lower end of what they're going for.
Absolutely, yeah. David's just thank you, Muji. Thank you, David, for
the
pronunciation. Mugi.
Is it Mugi?
Muji. Muji. Anyway, we're not here to learn Japanese.
Is a hard G G or G? What's a hard G? Go or generate? I don't know. What's a hard G?
It depends how you look at it.
Depends where you went to school, I suppose. Yeah, Go. There you go. Mugi.
There we are. Mugi. Thank you, David. Fountain of knowledge over there.
Honestly, now we could end the live stream now because we're not going to learn any more tonight. That's enough for us.
No, that's absolutely enough. I think all of this, most people know anyway. So we'll leave it there, Barry. Cheers. Launch it. Thanks. Second in terms of the release then is Clare Island whiskey, not Clare Island Irish whiskey. If you tuned into our Shebeen last week, you would know why it can't be called Irish whiskey, because it is matured on Clare Island, which is technically off the island of Ireland. We'll not go into that. So this
matured on a boat.
Matured on a boat. It's matured on a boat called the Dolphin. So it's aged at sea. Very interesting. So this is the third release of Clare Island single malt whiskey, aged in bourbon casks. Again, 46%. Beautiful bottle. Thank you, Barry, for modelling there. What release is that, first or second?
This is batch 2.
Batch 2. Nice. So this particular available whiskey, I think they launched it just there on Friday. No, yesterday, 22nd. Yesterday, yeah. And there are only 280 bottles available of this release. And it is €320. Now, we had this conversation early, Barry. It is a 5-year-old whiskey, €320. That's quite a significant price point, but there is a good reason for that, isn't there?
There is. The man's got bills.
The man's got bills. There is indeed.
It's Yeah, look, this is back to the point about whether you can have a linear comparison of ages. I don't think you can. So there's a whole backstory, like Lauren said, we could go into on this, but this is a whiskey aged at sea, couple of barrels at a time, aged in a boat, and it's single cask. That's 280 bottles. That's all that's there. There's a whole presentation box and a handmade case that goes with this, wooden handmade on the island, and an experience you can have on the island. Go visit it. We're going to talk more about that later. It is an expensive release, but I think there's people with emotional connections to Clare Island because of Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen of Ireland. The O'Malley family and clan around the world would see this as their spiritual home. And I think there's a lot of O'Malley people go to Clare Island, and this would be their ideal gift or memento of their trip. So not cheap, but not for everyone either.
Absolutely. And it does, as you said, Barry, it does come in a beautiful presentation box with the coin and the glasses and everything as well. So it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. One of the nicest bottles.
It is beautiful. And believe it or not, he got that bottle off a shelf, not a normal shelf, but he found this shelf in overseas, and he just thought it worked perfectly with the shape of the dolphin's tail, etc. But a quick question there that we'll answer before we go on, which is from Matt. He says, I've seen a few different whiskies that are aged at sea. What benefits are there to this aging process? And I think there's a debate as to, I think that's quite a subjective answer, honestly, Matt. Those selling it to us would tell us that the interaction from the constant shaking and moving will allow for more interaction between the spirit and the wood. Those who sell whiskies that have traveled on boats that have gone over cross the equator, etc., would say, well, different temperatures and different latitudes and longitudes of the world will affect the aging process. I don't think they've done any chemical tests to prove either is the case. So a lot of marketing spin or just a nice story. But, you could say, yeah, there's no debating the fact that if you shook a barrel for 3 years, the spirit is probably going to meet more wood than if you just stood it on a pallet. So that would be as far as my scientific input could go.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It is very much the jury's out on that one. It's very much up for debate. I think there was, you see a lot of Scotch whiskey brands produced on the islands or on the coast, and they talk about how the sea air and the salt air impacts the maturation, and you have that influence on the whiskey. And then people come back with, but it's in a warehouse. How's the sea air really going to affect the wood? So yeah, very much out for debate. But then moving on, the final whiskey release. This is available to select retailers in Texas only. I couldn't find any information, Barry. I'm not sure if it's actually in Clonakilty for sale itself in the gift shop. I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think so.
So this is a collaboration with the Garrison Brothers, which is a Texan bourbon brand, which is very, very high proof. It's described as a high proof powerhouse bourbon. So it's a 7-year-old whiskey, initially aged in ex-bourbon barrels before moving into these high proof Garrison Brothers barrels. So it is that bourbon itself is initially aged in oak barrels and then transferred into second New American, so Virgin American oak barrels. So you really get those kind of really distinct. Vanilla is sort of all the typical bourbon notes you would expect. So this is it's quite a hefty ABV. It's 58.8. And it's $69.99 and available in select retailers in Tesco as well. And that's being rolled out as of, I think, now, essentially.
I'm pretty sure you just said that's available in Tesco.
No, I said Texas. Definitely said Texas. Available, yep, down your local Tesco. I'll go tomorrow, pick up a bottle.
two tomatoes, a couple of bread rolls, and a bottle of Garrison Brothers single malt.
A cheese board, bit of salami, bit of few grapes.
A question from Weeg: are warehouses tempered? You would get the effects of the local climate. No, in Ireland, the warehouses are just they are natural, non-climate controlled warehouses. They are the victims and the beneficiaries of whatever weather conditions we have in that part of Ireland.
That's hilarious. I obviously did say Tesco. That's me thinking about my grocery shopping earlier today. Apologies.
That's part of the outtakes now, or the blooper reel for tomorrow. Where we craft the. But listen, like one of the downsides, one of the dangers of working in the whiskey business is that if we have a whiskey there's a chance we might say something that we didn't mean to say. And may the worst thing we ever say be Tesco instead of Texas.
Exactly. Problem is, I'm talking like I've had a few whiskeys. I genuinely haven't. This is my first one. I don't know what number you're on. And as Brian rightly said, the assistant shouldn't be correcting the host.
I'm changing my name now to no longer Lauren's assistant.
Put in wee helper.
There's one thing I want to add there, which is to this 7-year-old release, and we just had a talk of a 5-year-old release, and our clone release is 4 years old. I'm on a mission now. I've decided it's my mission to normalize, or to actually not normalize even, to eliminate the phrase that's expensive or that's ridiculous for a X-year-old whiskey. And instead I want us, because the playing field is not level. A 3-year-old whiskey from one place is not the same as a 3-year-old whiskey from somewhere else. A distillery that makes 3,000 barrels of spirit a day is not the same as one that makes 2 in a week. So I think that it's time for us to abandon this metric, this age-old linear metric of age as a evaluator of value, and instead say, based on the taste, the work that went into it, the price point, yes, is it value? Not, I think the age is going to be an irrelevant statement going forward. I really think it is, now that we've seen the quality come out at 3. So that's my mission now. I'm going to be insufferable on this one going forward, but I really believe it because I've tasted just some really great whiskies at just such a young age. So anyway, that's my soapbox.
I agree, actually. And I think for many, many years, people have been so sidetracked by age. And I kind of appreciate brands who come out with non-age statement bottles, especially if they're doing a tasting, for the first time in front of people, because you're just appreciating the whiskey for what it is. And you're not thinking, oh, it's only a 6-year. Oh, it's only a 5-year, So no, I agree.
100%. And I can tell you this for a fact, since I've got into the whiskey world 7 years ago, it's only this year I've started to taste whiskies at 3 and 4 years old that I can say I have never had the pleasure of tasting that kind of flavor before from whiskies at any age. So that's me converted anyway. Now my job is to convert everybody else.
Sounds good.
We'll leave it at
that. Sinead, we'll end there. So Irish Whiskey News, a few really nice pieces of news coming out from the world of whiskey this week. So speaking of Clonakilty, sticking with the same distillery, so Clonakilty have been awarded gold membership of Origin Green. So this is the world's only national food and drink sustainability program. So Origin Green is an initiative of Board Bia. So it only kind of gives these gold membership medals and kind of awards to companies that have demonstrated kind of exceptional efforts to be sustainable in whatever it may be that they produce. So Clonakilty, as we know, we've spoken about them before, and they're a much loved brand in our community as well. They have sustainability at the forefront of what they believe in. So they showed kind of exceptional performance in areas in terms of their raw material use, the packaging. I think they've reduced the cost or the landfill waste of their bottles by 22% or something like that. I think they're made from complete recycled glass, and their energy emissions, their waste reduction, everything. So it's a lovely piece of news from coming out of Clonakilty, very well deserved. And it is, of course, a stop for us in a few weeks' time.
We have a great stop there for our Whiskey Bus 2. We have, I think we've openly talked about it, but we're going to be tasting. You see those 3 copper pot stills in that picture. The only thing those 3 copper pot stills make is single pot still whiskey. That's all they make. That single pot still whiskey, they started making it 4 years and about 7 or 8 months ago. We're going to be tasting it in the barley fields that barley came from. We're going to be standing in the barley fields, having a few drops of that on our whiskey bus. I'm already thirsty.
We are indeed. And then we'll be paying a visit to the warehouse as well, and having a bit of lunch in the fields too, I believe.
Lunch in the fields overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, the Galleyhead Lighthouse, standing in a heritage barley field that was that has for 9 generations has been taken care of by the Scully family in Clonakilty. The stories write themselves. We don't need to make anything up.
We don't. Let's all pray to the Irish weather gods that the weather holds out. If not, I'm sure we can cover up. There'll be a few umbrellas or a few ponchos.
40 whiskey bus umbrellas on order.
Absolutely. We'll send the email tomorrow. Yes, Richard, it has been raining an awful lot in Ireland recently. The rest of Europe is basking in a heat wave, and we have rain constantly. Standard. Then we have my old haunt. So Bushmills profits raise 30%. So the turnover of Bushmills rose by 13 million to a record of 56.2 million for the 12 months ending December 31st last year, 2022, which was 12.5 million more than the last full year of trading before the pandemic. So there's the main thing that has contributed to this profit rise. It's a no-brainer, is the Causeway collection, of course. The new releases that came out from 2020 onwards, the export of the cases hitting 1 million as well. All of that has contributed to the profits, absolutely.
Are those numbers pounds or euros or dollars?
They are pounds.
Pounds, 57 million pounds. That is amazing information, amazing news. And it's on the back of the news that came out maybe just 2 months ago that for the first time ever, Bushmills had crossed the 1 million case mark for volume sales.
Right.
So 1 million 9-litre cases. That's what 12 million bottles of whiskey. That's incredible. Bushmills, look, two bigger fans of Bushmills you won't find than the two here. But for so long, so few people were introduced to the great whiskies that were aging in the warehouses there. And since 2020, there's been a marked change in how the whiskies from Bushmills were presented, sold, made available, marketed, and great to see that it's paying off. Great to see.
That's it, exactly. I think the term sleeping giant has been thrown around so much, but it's so true. That's exactly what Bushmills were. You know, we had the core range, we had the core malts, the 10, 16 and 21, and that's essentially where it stopped until the Causeway was launched in October 2020. And that's really where you saw that kind of, we were starting to climb the hill, rightfully so, upwards in terms of releases. And yeah, the Causeway definitely leading the charge for that. Jamie's been very smart there. The 30% came from me not getting a paycheck anymore. Very good.
Yeah, somebody else is lumbered with that cost now. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And then last piece of news from the whiskey world this week, Glens of Antrim. So Glens of Antrim Distillery is how they go by. They actually still haven't finished building their distillery yet. So it's in County Antrim. It's about 25 minutes away from me in Cushendall. They, I think, are due to complete by 2024, I believe. However, they just announced there during the week that they have exported 7,000 bottles of whiskey of their Lear Green Crest, which is their kind of their main SKU, to the States, to New York and New Jersey, I believe. So Glens of Antrim is owned by the McKillop family. They founded Glens of Antrim Potatoes and Crisps, if anyone is familiar with them in your journeys to Ireland. So this is their new venture as of last year, was when the whiskey hit the shelves, March 2022. So yeah, you should be seeing that in New York and New Jersey, any of you who are around that area.
Do you know the name Lear? Do you know where that comes from?
It's the children of Lear, isn't it? It's reflecting Irish mythology and Have you got a bottle there? Have you?
I have a bottle here, yeah.
Here we are.
I haven't opened it yet.
Could happen tonight.
I don't know. Not after Cologne. Not after Cologne.
Fair enough. That's fair news. So that pretty much wraps up the whiskey world news. Barry, do you want to take it away for some stories and sip updates? We have a big one this week.
Lauren, thank you very much. Great news and new releases. Thanks for all that information. Stories and Sips is our whiskey club. If you've not heard of us, we run a whiskey club to bring Irish whiskey to more people and to help more people fall in love with the people and the places and the pours of Irish whiskey. This week was a big week because we announced our seventh ever release, our seventh whiskey release, and it is a fantastic collaboration with the Cologne Distillery in County Down, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this evening. But I won't take too long to talk about this, but I will play a little video for you from our trip to Cologne this week. This is our new release here. It is a single pot still whiskey, and it follows my mission to bring young, flavorful whiskies to the market. It is the first ever whiskey from Cologne Distillery that has reached 4 years of age. It was laid down in 2019. It was 120 litre. That's a half a cask. The 120 litre barrel or 120 litre cask. Ex-bourbon barrel for 3.5 years, and then 7 months in a Pedro Jimenez sherry cask, 120 litres as well. It yielded 220 bottles at 57.7% ABV, and these are 500 milliliter bottles, and they are packaged up beautifully. It is the third ever cask of whiskey distilled at Cologne Distillery. This is a bit of history here, folks, and it's got a very, very unique mash bill. Malted barley, unmalted barley, oats, and wheat. So we're releasing a whiskey for the first time that has oats and wheat in it, and I'm very excited to get this in front of you. It goes on sale to our Whiskey Club members this Wednesday. First come, first served. Details on storiesandsIps.com. And when it's gone, it's gone. It'll be limited to one per person. There'll be a lot of demand for this. This is a historic whiskey in the evolving story of Irish whiskey and the Irish whiskey category. For there to be a 4-year-old whiskey from the likes of a Cologne Distillery, handcrafted whiskey, it's an amazing story. We're really, really privileged to get this. It's the first ever single cask to be released to a whiskey club at all, and from Cologne Distillery. So we're very, very excited about that. I went up there this week or last week to spend some time with Brendan Carty, the founder and the distiller, to learn about their process, to understand how it's made. This is a handcrafted process from start to finish. You'll see that in some of the videos I'll share over the coming days prior to our launch across our social media channels and via email. But I want to play just a quick video where he explains the naming of this whiskey. You'll see me labeling the bottles, proving that I do actually do a bit of work on occasion, not always. But these whiskies are called Baron Toul. That's the series, Cologne Baron Toul. And it's a fantastic flavorful whiskey. It has undergone what's called the Maillard reaction. The Maillard reaction is a process, is a kind of a chemical reaction that happens in cooking. It happens in fermenting and brewing and distillation, where sugars are caramelized and sugars are browned, a bit like the top of a creme brulee. When you use your Bunsen burner, you use your blue flame to caramelize those sugars, and you create that crisp, cracked top of a creme brulee. That burnt sugar note comes through here and adds a unique flavor profile. So we're really excited about that. That comes available this Wednesday. But let me share a quick video of our time up there in Cologne Distillery this week, and you'll see the first couple of labels going on the bottle. And if you're subscribed to our newsletter on storiesandsIps.com, you'll see more of these videos this week as well.
I always use a cushion because I drop things. So
amazing.
Lovely. There's your labels.
Look at that. First 4-year-old label.
Yeah, that's the
Big
first
moment for you.
4-year-old. You're dead right. And
Amazing.
that'll be stuck on there. On like that.
Okay.
The only thing is, whenever you stick these on, don't go wonky. You have to get it bang on. The bottom of this label has to line up with the bottom of the K, top of the label with the top of the N, and we tend to leave about 3/4 of a centimetre between this and that. It's alright, don't mess it up. It's only your own bottles you're messing up. There's no spare labels.
Like no spare labels. These are the last 6.
Everyone's individually numbered as well. So
bottle number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So these, if you mess up these labels,
we'll start with 6 in case I mess up number 1.
Exactly. So you can, if you want to come around to this side, I'll do it whatever way you want. Actually, yeah.
So where do you like the bottom of it? Down the bottom of the K? Oh, it fits perfectly.
I think you're back. Oh, we'll go back a wee bit. Yeah, that's you bang on there. Yeah, I think that
straight.
looks good. Yeah. Look at that. Hired.
Yeah. I get a start, will I?
Yeah. Looking good.
Looking good.
And then, of course, you get one of your boxes.
Right.
Put your insert card in with your, see the stories and sips.
Yeah.
Have all your information here and step
Amazing.
it in.
Beautiful. What will you put in like
Just
this?
stick it in.
Okay.
Pop your bottle in. and elastic band time.
Lovely. Free bracelet.
Yeah, and you just have to decide in terms of your information, in terms of your own hierarchy, which bit to hide,
Which bit to hide?
Yeah, I don't know.
So we'll hide. We want to keep it all, don't we?
No, it's tough, isn't it?
It's a tough one. No, sure, look, we'll move it around day by day.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day we'll move it on the shelf.
Exactly.
To look at a different piece.
Because you want to see single pod still. Aye, that's it, and then stories and sips is important
Boom.
as well. So it has stories and sips on the bottle as well. So
Amazing.
looking good.
Fantastic. Thanks a million for doing this with us.
Not at all.
This is amazing.
It's a pleasure.
I can't believe you're having me work up here too, though. I mean,
No, it's time
I thought we were
consuming,
paying you to get it all done for us.
There you go.
Oh no, it's grand. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going there. Yeah.
You know, get a few more.
Okay. Back there. No bubbles.
No, it looks well. That's a good thing about a small label. Look at that.
It's almost like you had it set up for us. Ready to go. Good teacher. This is bottle number 5. The boxes are lovely.
Yeah, they're good.
Did you get inspiration from anywhere for them?
I think it was Johnny, our designer, Johnny Lloyd. He's a big part of the whisky world and Belfast Whisky Club too. Belfast lad. Gymnasium design. He's
Yeah.
called. And he's very good now, I have to say. So he came up actually with Bar and Tool as well.
Yeah.
He's recently started doing Irish language lessons and things like that. So I have to say, I think he understood the personality of the distillery, and then he basically personified the distillery, if you like, into this product, because this is meant to be, the epitome of it's coming into itself. So,
Will you tell us what Bar and Tool means?
the closest word in English, I suppose, would be authenticity, but the height of truth, or true to origin, I suppose, So, Cologne have always been about transparency, and relating back to, I suppose, what we see as the ethics of the Irish whisky industry and what they should be. And I suppose Bar and Tool was a big part of that then, and this was whenever our own spirit was coming of age, its own, what we see is, a lot of the time, real pot still whisky that can't be called pot still whisky is a big part of that as well. And that whole idea of empowerment of the consumer with authentic information, mash bills, fermentation times, distillation times, as much information as possible. Just that idea of empowerment with truth and authentic information. So I don't think you can get away from. There's nothing more authentic,
And no one's going to argue with your transparency.
No, they
couldn't accuse you of not being.
They could accuse us of misleading the consumer, which has happened in the past by trying to do this. But look,
Giving them too much information.
Exactly. Do you know
You're
what?
only confusing them.
There's one thing we forgot to do today, and that was turn on the wax. 1 second. You do the wax. That should have been on.
Forgot to turn on the wax. There's another video I'll share. Maybe later tonight. I'll share it tomorrow, otherwise, which is me waxing the top of the bottles. And if you thought the labels was a holy show of a disaster, wait till you see the waxing.
Bubbles everywhere.
Honestly, Brendan said when I was waxing them, he said, "You have one job: don't put a bubble on the wax." Let me tell you, you've got 220 bubbles coming your way.
bottles 1 to 6 will have bubbles.
There may be bubbles, but look, we won't charge any more for the bubbles this time. This is we're making this available on Wednesday. Look, we're at the stage of a club where any single cask is in its size less than the number of members we have. How we're trying to remedy that is to ensure that as many people get access to great whiskies as possible, is that we'll have as many releases as possible in a year. So there's going to be a release. It hasn't happened yet. I think it's going to happen with this whiskey, where not everyone is going to get one. There's just no way around it. We have more members than we do bottles. But what we'll do is we'll commit to doing is definitely making sure nobody orders 2, but also that we'll have great releases throughout the year. And I hope that as many people as possible get hold of this. This is a 500 milliliter bottle. Many of Killowen's releases are in 500 milliliters. Some of them now are going to 700, but 500 allows many more people get access to it, which is great. Anyway, all the details on this are on storiesandsips.com. I'm going to put that link in here, storiesandsips.com. If you want to go and check that out in your own time, feel free to do it and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get all the details there. That's it for the new release. We just got a delivery of sample bottles, small 30 milliliter bottles this size. We are putting together our tasting event, a blind tasting. We're going to ship to you as well. There's every chance all of these two things can happen in the same month of August, which is also a Whiskey Bus month. Can you imagine? But we're going to do it all. Stay tuned on that. And we have definitely 2 more whiskey releases yet this year, and possibly 3. But I'm very excited for a Cologne release. This is going to be a great one. We're going to do a tasting with Brendan in the middle of August as well. This will go available to you on Wednesday, and it'll ship on Wednesday or Thursday as well. So we're moving quickly on this one. Oh, the biggest news of all. You're all getting a free Stories and Sips and Killowen Custom Glencairn as well. Here it is. Beautiful Stories and Sips on one side, Killowen on the other. Every bottle is going to have this included. Custom Glencairn. Beautiful. That's included at no charge to yourself. And we'll have one of those in every bottle bought. So I hope that's a little added incentive. We bought those. I think it's a nice little add-on to celebrate our collaboration.
Absolutely.
So I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it for Stories and Sips. Again, if you're not a member, we'd love to have you. We have a growing whiskey club, and the more members we have, the more casks and bottlings we will do to make sure that everybody gets access to great whiskeys. So sláinte to everybody on that. So I think that's the Stories and Sips side of things.
Sláinte. No, was very lucky when I was at Killowen there as well on Tuesday. Brendan was very kind to give me a little sample of it as well, and you're in for a treat. It is a beauty.
What? You tasted it as well? He's not supposed to give it away.
Only a little sample.
Okay, that's fine.
Sure. I mean, the bottle was open in the photo you posted, so we hardly poured it down the drain.
Same bottle, still here.
With the crater that's left on top of the lid due to a bubble being popped.
A question from John, not a Tua. No, we have released Tua glasses in the past. I have a Stories and Sips Tua here that we had from way back in the day. I have been using Glencairn glasses for the past year and a half, both the Copita and the regular Glencairn from the Palace Bar. I've got a Teeling Whiskey Copita. I've got Friends of Middleton Glencairn. Anyway, we've been really enjoying them. My favorite glass in the world is a Crystal Glencairn, which is right here. This one here is a Crystal Glencairn with a drop of whiskey in it. We are going to have these available to you all, Stories and Sips Crystal Glencairns and Stories and Sips regular Glencairns in the next 2 months. We're getting a shipment sent to the US, and they'll be handled by a fulfillment company in the US who will dispatch them out to you. And I think that they're really nice. I'm really enjoying this big logo, big Stories and Sips logo, and just really nice to hold. So it's been my glass of choice. We made a commitment to go with them in the last few weeks. So looking forward to rolling those out to you. And of course, you're welcome to use whatever glasses you want. But this is what we're going for here. And we'll switch around as needed as well. So back to you, Lauren.
Back to me, absolutely. So we will move forward. We'll crack on. We've got 40 minutes in, and we haven't even touched upon the subject of the night, which is when it's a busy week in the whiskey world, this is what happens. So we are going to dive in to the distilleries of County Down. Barry, you can do the needful there and make our faces a little bit bigger. Not that we're the star attraction or anything at all. So County Down, we'll chat a little bit about it, first of all, about the county itself, because I actually think it's, and you agreed with me earlier, Barry, it's a county that I think is actually quite overlooked in terms of people visiting it. County Down is very much a place that domestic tourism would happen, especially in NI. People would go Easter holidays, summer holidays for a weekend down to Newcastle and County Down, spend a bit of time getting an ice cream and having a walk on the beach. And that seems to be not where it ends completely, but it's definitely more popular domestically than it is internationally. So County Down, we have a map here. So you have a map of Ireland on the left, and then a map of NI, of course, on the right-hand side. So you can see where County Down is in relation to Ireland. So it is, as you very nicely put it, Barry, it's one of the 6 counties of Northern Ireland, 9 of Ulster, and 32 of Ireland. So this is where we're situated. But the reason we're focusing on it tonight is County Down has more distilleries than any other county in Ireland. And there's such an interesting history of whiskey production, poaching production in County Down, and we'll talk about that in a second, but it's massively to do with the geography of the region. Another thing which is quite interesting as well, this is a little bit of a side point, Belfast itself is technically divided into 2 counties. So it's County Antrim and County Down. It's not really something that I would say you would know if you didn't live in Belfast or you weren't from Ireland, certainly NI anyway. So Belfast is split between the River Lagan is essentially the divide. So anything north of the River Lagan is County Antrim, and anything south is County Down. Now, if you looked up any address in Belfast, typically doesn't mention the county, it just says Belfast. So this is quite an interesting one, because we were chatting earlier, and what we'll talk about it as we go on is Titanic Distillery, which has just very recently opened in Belfast, is technically County Down, even though it's in Belfast City, which brings up the total number of counties in Down to 8, which is mad. For not being an overly large county, I guess it is quite interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So points of interest, we'll go over this quickly because I know that the main attraction is the distilleries and the whiskey, not what you can do. But I know we have a few fans. I think Stacey said earlier she was a big fan of County Down, and so was Brian. So a few of the points of interest around the county, besides the distilleries, is the first one is the Ulster Folk Museum. Now, it was previously known as the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum, can still go by that term, but this was essentially created in 1958 by an act of parliament. So the Folk Museum was created to preserve a rural way of life in Ireland that was in danger of disappearing, essentially due to the urbanisation and industrialisation. So there's a variety of buildings, there's old dwellings, you can see there, that's kind of an old house in there. You can see them make soda bread, and they talk about poaching, and there's a fake kind of room where we're just poaching in it as well. So it's just demonstrating a very old way of life, essentially. So it is 170 acres, so it's quite a big place. It's in Kiltraw in County Down. So it's entirely devoted to illustrating a way of life in the early 20th century. So you can stroll through recreations of the countryside, farms, cottages, crops, livestock. You can visit a typical Ulster town at that time as well. And it's actually the holder of Northern Ireland's main film, photographic, and television and sound archives. So I think it holds, over 2,000 hours of footage from BBC on radio and television, and even RTE as well. So a really, really interesting place. It's also got a section which is dedicated to the railway history. It combines about 150 years of railway history. There's the steam locomotives, passenger carriages, and so on and so forth. So quite an interesting little piece, I guess, of history captured over 170 acres. We then also can't mention County Down without the jewel of County Down, which are the Mourne Mountains. So this is the largest mountain range in Northern Ireland. The highest peak is 850 metres, which is Slieve Donard, is the highest peak of the mountains. And it is an AONB, so an area of outstanding natural beauty, and it is also partly owned by the National Trust as well, who are a British organisation who own various kind of parks and areas of kind of special interest across the UK and Ireland and NI. And they also own the Giant's Causeway as well, of course, the National Trust. Have you been, Barry, to the Mourne Mountains? Have you ever climbed up them or anything? No?
I mean, I went there on Monday to pick up my whiskey.
That's cheating, because you drove halfway. You drove all the way, actually. You didn't drive halfway.
I have I've not walked up the Mourne Mountains, but I think there is a set of whiskey experiences in our future that we've never talked about. Whiskey walking, where we go to great areas of natural beauty, up mountains and hills, and we bring an old hip flask and somebody with a bit of knowledge, and we have a great walk. We take some pictures, we have a bit of whiskey, we come back down.
I agree. And obviously the history, as we'll talk about, of poaching being produced in and around the Mourne Mountains as well. Obviously there was no access for anyone to stop them. So yeah, absolutely agree. No, it's a beautiful place. It's very, very popular. As I said earlier, with domestic tourism, you get hikers up there every weekend, all the time. There's Mourne trails. People guide you up to the peak, and so on and so forth. So it really is a beautiful area. And then I'm going to just switch slides here.
Like we've got some people who've spent some time in Down and have visited the Folk Museum, which is great, and have visited the Mourne Mountains as well, and lots of kind of interesting discussion around Belfast, and like that point you raised about the Titanic distillery and the Titanic Quarter being south of the River Lagan and therefore in County Down is one that is a completely new fact to me as of the last few weeks. I didn't know it at all. But a few folks wondering, like, so then what's in County Down? In Belfast is the Friend at Hand and the Duke of York are in County Down, but they would technically be in Antrim because they're north of the river,
north.
right?
Yeah, that's right. They're north, yeah. It's an interesting one, and it's honestly, it's not spoken about massively. As I said earlier, if you live in Belfast, your address just ends at Belfast. There is no county, and that's both north and south of the River Lagan. It's an interesting one as well. Certainly. Yeah. Only, you said earlier, McConnell's are in the final stages of building their distillery, but they're North Belfast, so they're County Antrim. So interesting one, absolutely. Now, it'd be interesting to know if any of you have been to County Down. Have you visited the Sleeve Donard? So this is one of NI's most kind of prestige hotels. It's a resort and a spa. It's an absolutely beautiful building. It looks like a castle, but it isn't a castle. Don't get excited, we can't buy it. It was originally built by the Belfast and County Down Railway as a sort of end-of-line luxury destination. So this is where your train journey would have ended, and you would kind of reap the rewards of this beautiful hotel. The beach very nearby. It has a backdrop of the Mourne Mountains as well. So it's an absolutely beautiful location, which kind of supports my point about how County Down was very much a domestic tourism destination. So construction began in 1896 and it was finished by a couple of years later, 1898. It was at that time £44,000 is what it took to build a venue like this. Not sure what that is in today's money, if someone can translate it quickly, but yeah, unbelievable. So it was almost kind of a self-sufficient area as well. It had its own bakery, vegetable garden, it had pigs, a laundry service. So it had kind of everything you would require, like most spa and resorts do. You don't need to leave the property. You have everything there. It was owned by the biggest hotel chain in Northern Ireland, the Hastings Hotel Group, for a number of years, although last October it was acquired by a Chicago headquartered company called Adventurous Journeys. So they bought it last year from the Hastings Hotel, and I believe it has undergone a little bit of a revamp too. So beautiful, beautiful destination. Sleeve is a name, Tyrone. So the Sleeve Donard, it takes its name from the highest peak of the Mourne Mountains. Gorgeous venue. And then this is just a nice little point as well to showcase that it is an absolutely beautiful place. There are 18 beaches in County Down. So one county has 18 beaches. The most popular is the one photographed there. It's Murlough Beach. And you can see the beautiful backdrop of the Mourne Mountains as well. So again, great for grabbing an ice cream or a hip flask of whiskey, whatever you desire, and having a wee stroll along the beach.
We're not in the ice cream promoting business. We're only in the whiskey promoting business. We'll keep the ice cream talk now to the other live stream that we're doing later on the world of flavoured ice cream.
Fair enough. Mint chocolate chip, honeycomb, you name it, we'll talk about it. Lisa stayed there past spring. Yeah, That's right, Lisa. As they said, they were undergoing, and to be honest, it needed it. It was quite dated, for being kind of one of the supposed top luxurious destinations in NI. It definitely needed a little bit of TLC. So it's great to see that it got that. Absolutely.
Finally,
we're on to the whiskey distilleries.
Finally, 51 minutes in, we're getting to whiskey.
We're getting to whiskey. At least we're not 51 minutes in and we don't have a whiskey in our hands, though. That's a different story. I'm seeing people, Mark, Tom, talking about that's a very Belfast phrase there. A wee poke is an ice cream, is a 99.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is in Ireland? A wee poke.
A poke is a 99. Yeah. I actually, funny, David Boyd Armstrong, who we'll of course chat about in a while, he messaged me during the week and said it'd be great if you did like a colloquial section, like kind of typical northern phrases. But I was like, we'll be long enough talking about the distilleries. That'll last for another time. So how we're going to do this, Barry's grabbing another whiskey. How we're going to do this is I'll give a little bit of an overview and an introduction, which many of you will be very familiar with the distilleries that we'll cover here. And Barry can kind of chip in, or you can add your 2 cents or questions or whatever you so desire. How I have done this is in alphabetical order. So alphabetical order of the distilleries down. Barry jokes that I am obsessed with Copeland Distillery. I genuinely, I mean, it's a great brand. I have
never shuts up about it. Never shut. Every conversation. Here's something you don't know about Copeland. I want to tell you. Have you heard this about Copeland? Honestly, are you being paid by Copeland?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Tim McKee, I don't think he's not online tonight to support me, but absolutely not. No, listen,
I'm seeing him in Cork. I'm seeing him in Cork next week. I'm going to be talking to him and seeing if he's slipping brown envelopes back to you to talk about Copeland all the time.
If I'm on their payroll, no, don't worry, I'm not. I'm actually going to preface all this just by saying how kind of relevant County Down was to the illicit, we'll call it, poaching industry. So the Mourne Mountains would have really kind of led itself to illicit poaching distilling after it was made completely illegal in 1661 because of how remote it is. So areas, villages of County Down, like Donaghadee, where Copeland is based, like Rostrevor, like Burr Point, no cars could reach those areas. Therefore, it gave way to these people. They were driven into the wild. They were making poaching, producing spirit in inaccessible places of Ireland, like the Mourne Mountains. So Brandon is kind of really trying to revive that legacy of poaching distilling in the Mourne Mountains, as they were completely remote, untamed throughout the 18th and even 19th century as well. So it's great that we're seeing so many of these distilleries popping up in County Down when it has such an interesting history of poaching and whiskey production. So County Down. Sarah Kennedy's just joined. I've just seen her name on the live stream there. So County Down, number 1 is Copeland. So Copeland is in the coastal village of Donaghadee. It was not the foundations of the distillery, but the kind of concept, the foundations of the brand were established back in 2016. They actually raised £30,000 through crowdfunding. They had 390 investors that donated everything between £50 to £500 to get the distillery off the ground and to get it started. So kind of a nice little community feel. It is really one of those brands and distilleries that massively wants to give back to the local community. So after 9 months of construction, the doors of Copeland opened in August 2019, which signaled the start of the journey to create a craft distillery in Northern Ireland. So it is 6,500 square foot. And it's just a stone's throw away from the historic harbour of Donaghadee. So it's actually in where the distillery is, it's revitalised a former cinema and the Ards Bottling Company site, which laid unoccupied for about 20 years. So that's home to the distillery. So they have a 125-year lease, which is their signal, their commitment to Donaghadee, and the ambition to create beautiful gins, rums, and whiskey, their own whiskey, which will be ready to be bottled next year, 2024. and their aim is to kind of celebrate and share the rich maritime history of this area, and as I said, create beautiful whiskies and spirits. So there are 3 corporate stills producing both pot and malt whiskey. So the 3 stills are named after Gareth Irvine, who's the founder of Copeland, after his grandmothers and mum. So the stills are called Betty, Hesse, and Pam, I think they're known as. It's a very popular thing to name stills in distilleries across Ireland. So the name where Copeland originates from is actually the Copeland Islands, which you can see from the harbour itself. So the harbour overlooks these islands, and it is kind of the coastal spirit that Copeland wished to embody. It's steeped in history and heritage. Tim, when I was chatting to him last week or the week before, he mentioned that the islands, they're unpopulated bar one, which is owned by a Hollier company in Northern Ireland, but these islands were a very popular shipping dock, and also where goods were smuggled in to the mainland. You're bringing it up there, Barry, are you?
Yeah, just a quick look there on the screen, just to give you some sense of where it is in the world. So it's out here on the Ards Peninsula, not far from Belfast, but look how close this is to Scotland. Look, it's 14 miles across the channel.
So close. Absolutely.
Scotland.
So yeah, so Tim was telling me that there's actually the remnants, there's basically the walls left of an old shebeen on one of the islands, which many people used to smuggle rum and poachine and whiskey into the mainland through these islands, which I thought was quite interesting as well. So there's definitely an experience to be had out there. We love an old shebeen.
This is a wealth of information of the first of what's going to be many distilleries we have to cover tonight in County Down. Will we be naming all of the stills and all of the distilleries tonight, or will it just be Copeland?
No,
we will.
Okay. No, we're not naming on the stills, don't worry.
There's lots. We're going to do a Meet the Maker event on Stories and Sips with Copeland in November or December. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about the brand, we'll have more from the team there, from Tim and Gareth in November, December as well. There's it's housing an old cinema building as well, which is interesting. We might have lost Lauren there, but she'll come back to us, I'm sure, once she gets her internet connection back up and running. While we're waiting on that, let us know what's in your glass. Let me know what you're drinking. I'm still sipping away on the Killowen, our next Killowen release for Stories and Sips. In the meantime, let me see what you're all drinking. Lauren's doing a great job, says Mark. I agree. We can give her a round of applause there, unless she's after running into the distance. Oh, we lost her. All right, we'll get her back in a second. All right, Lauren will join us back in a second. Internet is always unreliable in different parts of Ireland, different parts of the island. John's Lane is what Tom is drinking at the moment. David Stewart says he's also a coffee liqueur fan. Tony is drinking McConnell's right now. Interestingly, Sarah Kennedy from McConnell's is in the audience as well. And McConnell's, while not in County Down, is not far from the border with County Down. It's also in Belfast, and a great distillery being built in the old jail in Belfast. And we have a great tour of the jail and of the distillery under construction on our website on Stories and Sips YouTube. So be sure and check that out as well. We had a great tour thanks to Sarah and the team at McConnell's as well. Right, Lauren has put some coins into the meter, and we should be good.
We'll get through a week yet where you don't have microphone issues and my laptop decides to do updates in the middle of a live stream. Apologies.
I think what we need a headline sponsor of this nonsense show, and this headline sponsor will cover the technical failings that we have audio and visually.
I agree.
I'm going to find a sponsor. I'm going out there tomorrow with my hat in my hand, and I'm going to get somebody to underwrite audio and visual issues, and that'll be the end of it. You'll never hear from us again, but you'll have to put up with some 30-second videos from our sponsors. That's it. That
sounds good, though. I feel like a few ads in the middle of everything might break it up a bit, you know. Might break the sound, break the video disappearing anyway.
Right. On we go. Next one.
Moving on we go. Ecklinville Distillery. Of course, hugely popular within our group, as we know. So Ecklinville Distillery, in 1613, Bishop Robert Ecklin arrived in the Ards Peninsula from Fife in Scotland, and a century later, his great-grandson establishes the Ecklinville estate. Moving forward quite a number of years, Shane Braniff in 2007, he's a local farmer, a local businessman. He purchases Ecklinville Manor, and the aim he had was to found Ireland's first field to glass distillery, which of course he did. So on the farm, Ecklinville grow all of their own barley. Of course, they distill their liquid, which their release, I think Jarlath was saying there, Barry, wasn't it, on Friday, September time? Their liquid will be bottled and released. So 2013, when Ecklinville were granted their license, they were the first distillery in NI in 25 years, which was incredible.
It's an absolute gem of a location. It seems to be that only those in the know about Ecklinville still to this day, despite the fact that they've been distilling whiskey for 9 years in Ecklinville. They were the after Dingle, they were the next one after Dingle. Dingle Distillery in 2012 was the first independent distillery opened in Ireland in 100 years. Not long afterwards, Ecklinville was next, but they've only ever released sourced whiskey for the most part, apart from their old Cumber whiskey, which was 99.9% their own spirit. Obviously, it's the home of Dunville's whiskey today, where we released our last Stories and Sips Club whiskey from them, our 19-year-old single malt. I mean, I get chills when I think about all these places, because the connections we start to build up from the people, the stories, the experiences. Anyone who's visited Ecklinville in any way will leave a convert, an absolute convert. And we've got some experiences rolling out of Ecklinville that we can maybe talk about later that are going to blow your mind. But it is a mecca for whiskey fans. County Down has it all. Honestly, 3 of our whiskey club releases are from County Down. So we've had 7 releases. 3 of them are from County Down.
Nearly half of them. That's great, yeah. And I think people as well, obviously Dunville's, Shane had the kind of the aim to revive such a historic brand established in Belfast in 1808. But I think people forget how many other brands Ecklinville are behind as well. You have Matt Darcy, you've got Feckin, Irish whiskey, Irish gin, you have Ecklinville gin, Weaver's gin. Unbelievable.
Bon Puccin,
yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. I mean, how you said, Barry, there, when people go to Ecklinville, they come back converts. How could you not with Jarlath? Like, he's
Jawbox.
just, yeah. Yep. No, Jarlath. How could you not be a convert of Ecklinville with Jarlath behind you,
100%. Put Ecklinville on I mean, look, County Down there will be no other place in Ireland that within an hour's drive of your hotel, you can reach as many distilleries.
Exactly. Absolutely. And then the barley fields there with a beautiful manor house in the background. It's a gorgeous place. Very remote. There's no signal. There's no signal down there, but it's well worth it. Absolutely. It's definitely one of the best distilleries I've visited so far anyway.
We're going to see their own, like you said earlier, their own spirit, their own whiskey being released later this year, which will be fantastic. And then Dunville's will continue on. But we're very lucky in the world of Irish whiskey to have distilleries and companies like Ecklinville that can put their hands in their pocket for 9 years to age their spirit until they're happy enough to put their name on it. Not release whiskey that they're not happy with. They just said, look, they want their whiskey to reach a certain age and they want to have enough of it to be able to keep the market supplied, so that when they launch it, it's not just a single cask or 2 casks. It's we've got this thing that you love available all the time. It's amazing.
Exactly. And their sherry cask management is second to none. I mean, we know well their Oloroso sherry casks, their PX casks, the Palo Cortado is just some of the best sherry cask finishes in Ireland, hands down.
What are their stills called, Lauren? You're on a naming spree. Did you get that in your research? No.
I don't know if they name their stills. Actually, couldn't find that. I'll ask. I'm actually heading there on Wednesday. I'll ask them on Wednesday. We'll see.
So that's our second distillery. So we're on 2 now. Now we're on to number 3.
Number three. So Hinch Distillery. I don't know if Jamie is still listening. He can give us an insight or correct anything or add anything to this section. So Hinch Distillery is based at Ballynahinch in County Down, where its name derived from. Hinch, of course. It was founded in 2016 by entrepreneur Dr. Terry Cross OBE. So he's founded several businesses. He's a very entrepreneurial man. And in his career, Delta Print and Packaging was one of them. Hinch had a pre-opening before COVID in 2019. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was 2020. I think they actually began distilling. Visitor Centre opened in March 2021. And they are, of course, producing single malt whiskey. So the distillers behind the scenes are William Stafford and Emma Miller. Special shout out to Emma, because she's one of Ireland's very few female distillers, which is incredible. So she's leading the forefront with their whiskey and gin distillation. And Terry also, as well, he re-established a historic Chateau de la Ligne in Bordeaux, bringing the vineyards back to their former glory. And of course, we have some Hinch whiskies that are aged in those casks from that vinery as well. There we are, 9th of November 2020, first distillation. Thank you, Jamie.
Another great example of somebody putting their hands in their pocket and saying, I believe in whiskey, I believe in Irish whiskey, I believe in distillation, and taking the grains out of the ground and making something with them. And Terry Cross has done a great job both on the wine making side with his chateau. He has a winery, a vineyard in France, and now a whiskey distillery in Ballynahinch. We visited on our Whiskey Bus 1 tour. We had a great time there. Jamie and the team took great care of us, and they have a great sensory experience for tasting the whiskey. So it was the first place I saw the little atomizers, and you could. Have you ever seen those? And you get the little atomized chance to kind of smell the different cask finishes, the different whiskies. They have a beautiful tasting room in there. Lovely, lovely distillery to visit, and a gift shop that we couldn't get people out of as well. That bus was delayed by far too long for people lining up to bottle their own and to buy things at the gift shop.
As they should, and fair play to Jamie as well. Like he was one of the first people actually I met when I started my journey with Bushmills and in the industry. And he's always been such a support, and he's done such an amazing job of not only putting Hinch on the map, but County Down in general. And he's done great things for the marketing and branding of Hinch as well. And he's a good supporter of us. He's still in there.
Now, would Jamie also be paying you as well as Copeland for all of these compliments? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See the stack of brown envelopes up there? Yeah.
Honestly, and that Rolls Royce you turned up at last week, would that have been paid for with all of these contributions?
Sorry, stop giving away my secrets, Barry, please. Thank you.
Okay. Hinch has gone from 400,000 litres of pure alcohol produced every year to 1 million litres of pure alcohol. Massive jump. Fair play.
Amazing. That's incredible. And again, it shows the faith in the growth of the industry as a whole. You know, really contributing to that overall growth of Irish whiskey globally. It's amazing. Now,
Lauren, what are those stills called?
I'm going to guess that they're called Patricia, Janice, and Rosie.
Interesting.
Just pulled those out of the air.
We'll be the first to hear if you're wrong anyway from Jamie in 2 seconds.
I'm telling you. See, when I worked in Bushmills, when I was a tour guide, that was one of the questions I always got asked was, do you name your vessels? So we used to just come up with these. I changed the name every time I did a tour, basically, just to keep everyone happy.
Each of the 10 pots. You have 20 pots now in Bushmills. Imagine each of the 20 pots still having a name.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Cologne. We've dived into Cologne quite deeply tonight, haven't we? So, as you said, three out of your 7 releases have been a County Down whiskey.
3 of the 7 releases have been County Down whiskey. Actually, no. 4 of the 7.
What's the 4? The craic?
2 Stacks.
Yep.
Was our first one.
Yep.
The second one was Shorecross. The third one was Ecklenville, and the 4th one was Cologne. We might as well call ourselves the Stories and Sips Down Whiskey Club.
There you are.
Honestly, we could have a whiskey club just from Down. This is amazing. Look, Cologne. What can we say? I'm almost tempted. Very self-servingly to tee up another video from Cologne.
The rest of that video that we shared earlier. Why not?
Do you think, have we got a minute or two to play another video?
We've got a minute or two. I think that'll encapsulate Cologne perfectly through the means of a video. Go for it.
While you're talking there, I'm going to find it. Oh, wait, now. Do I have it?
Have you found it?
As you can tell, folks, you can tell the amount of rehearsals and planning that goes into a show like this. All right, I'm gonna show you the wax dipping. So I labeled the bottles. Let me give you a quick overview of the wax dipping, and then we'll leave it at that. We won't indulge ourselves anymore after that. But I have more videos to share tomorrow of Brendan sharing the process of the whiskey making. So anyway, in the meantime, indulge me please for 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Plastic on a podcast or something.
Probably shouldn't start with number one.
Oh, did I? I
That's number two. That's number two.
You're number one.
There's number one.
Yeah.
I should probably start with something else, shouldn't I? Just in case, a bit like my labeling. I'll start with number 3.
Good man.
Whoever gets bottle number 3 now, you're seeing this process happening. All right, so it's closed, right? So we dip it in. Keep twisting while it dries, huh?
Yeah. We'll hold it downways though.
Oh yeah, so it doesn't roll all the way down the bottle.
Yeah. And fold over itself.
I've never waxed a bottle before.
No. It's nice that they're all slightly different though. You
Yeah.
know, it sort of adds to it.
There's a little bubble there. I have a small wee bubble.
There's always a bubble.
Always
yeah.
a bubble?
Yeah.
Bubble's okay?
At least yours not sitting to the front like mine. So.
We charge extra for the bubbles.
Yeah.
Free bubbles.
It gives them somewhere to put the knife in. You know what? These bubbles are notorious. That's really nice. See with it half, sticking down in half. I like it. Look at that.
Well, I'm an artist at heart, you know.
Obviously.
Clearly,
Just
as it shows.
It's obviously intentional. Because you're
very much so. Definitely intended that to happen.
You're going to do all of them like that then, I suppose.
Definitely. It's just how I do things. This is bottle number 1.
Yeah, this is the important
This
one.
has to be a good one. Okay, we did our little angle. the Chandler angle. There's always an angle with Chandler.
There is indeed.
Oh, there's a big bubble there now.
Yeah.
Pop it. Boop. It's right at the front too.
It'll pop itself.
Will it?
It does, yeah. I suppose the idea is just it leaves a hole, no matter what.
Gotcha. At least it seals it anyway.
Or else you can pop it after. It'll be hard wax.
Right. A bit of character.
Yeah. That's nice.
Now.
Lovely.
There we
That's
go.
really nice.
Bottle number 1. Sinead.
Lovely.
Beautiful.
Steven Spielberg has nothing on us, like quality, like storytelling.
Tony just asked there, maybe dip the wax before boxing it. The reason that happened is because Brendan forgot that we still had to wax dip the bottles before we put them in the box. So we did it back to front.
Again, for anyone who thinks that any of what we do is organized, planned, based on any experience whatsoever, I mean, we're going to let you down. I can tell you.
Brilliant! It was the big bubble that he created. Bottle number 1 has a giant crater of a remnants of a bubble.
We might leave that bottle number 1 aside for a charity auction again. I decided, and based on some input and feedback from the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club, that bottle number 1 from our Dunville's release would go available for charity auction to raise some funds for charity on both sides of the Atlantic, Ireland and the US. And so I think we'll do the same with bottle number 1 from our Cologne release. I think that's I'll buy the bottle, donate it back, and then we'll auction it off. Anyway, what else do we need to know about Cologne? I mean, look, we've talked about it. We've talked about Cologne. It's incredible.
We have. It's unbelievable. As you rightly said, I think, Barry, during the week when you announced the whiskey, he's just flavour obsessed. And I love that. You know, two flame-fed copper stills, a third soon. Actually, that's ready to go as well, which is amazing because it's showing his expansion. And he's just bringing reviving Poaching, bringing it back, showing that it's a quality spirit. And he was, of course, once Ireland's smallest distillery until Buillock came on the scene, as we know.
I didn't sign the bottle, Richard. I'd hate to devalue it. Right.
Just look out for the bubbles. Look out for the bubbles. Moving on, or we'll be here for 3 hours.
I'm curious about your choice here of Mourne Dew Distillery. So, is this a whiskey distillery?
So it is not as of yet. They produce poaching and gin. So they are. I've included them in here because they make up part of the distilleries of County Down, but they're not massively known yet. It's Donal Farrell is the man behind the scenes, and they are known best for Puka Poaching, which is a hazelnut flavored poaching. It's actually very nice. I don't know if you've tried it, Barry.
No.
Yeah, I actually tried it, funnily enough, in JJ Sheehy's in Anthony's pub there a few months ago. Very nice, interesting, and they also produce Kilbrony gin as well. But there's not a massive amount of information out there about them, but it's Kilbrony gin and Puka Poaching is what they're known for producing. Their distillery is, I think it's in an industrial estate, it's in a warehouse, it's very, very small. And their whiskey, I think, is GND sourced. They do have one whiskey and it's GND sourced for the time being anyway.
So when you mentioned earlier 8 distilleries, did you count these guys as one?
Yeah. Counted these guys as one, and Titanic as well, technically. Yeah.
So I would argue then that there's only 7 currently commissioned distilleries in County Down, right? Like there's a Poaching distillery here, Mourne Dew, but they're not distilling whiskey.
Whiskey as such. It's up for debate. It's like,
but are they have they ever actually distilled whiskey? Or no?
Not to my knowledge. So then it is up for debate then.
Delete. Get rid of them. Gone. I think there's only 7. So, I don't think they qualify. I think they're a distillery, but they're not a whiskey distillery. I think they're a nice kind of... a
nice segue.
There's definitely more distilling than whiskey, but I would argue there isn't 8 distilleries in Down. This is my position anyway. I'm open to discussion and debate. I'm going to take the position there's 7. Discuss.
Fair enough. Debate and discuss. Dissect. Moving on then, which this was final stop on Whiskey Bus 1, if my memory serves me correctly, was Redeeman Estate Distillery.
It was last stop of the whiskey bus.
Last stop of the whiskey bus, and we're not confirmed on this, but it has one of the largest logos that can be seen. Maybe not from space, but certainly from a fair distance into the sky. A drone, certainly.
They do make the case that besides the Great Wall of China, the only thing you can see from space is the Shawcross logo in their car park.
So, of course, Redeeman Estate Distillery is owned and operated by Fiona and David Boyd Armstrong, a husband and wife duo. So they did their research all over the world, essentially. They travelled all over the world from January 2012. They visited distilleries in the UK, Ireland, Europe, Asia, America, and just essentially immersed themselves in the drinks and distilling industry. They ordered their very first still in 2013, I think January 2013, so essentially a year later, and sourced by, I think it was a German company, Christian.
Oh, we're going to lose Lauren again. She's gone. I will pick up the pace here while we get Lauren back. So Redeeman Estate Distillery is a fantastic distillery, and I have gotten to know Fiona and David Boyd Armstrong over the last 2 years, and especially leading up to the whiskey bus. And since then, we released one of our whiskey club, Stories and Sips Whiskey Club bottlings from Redemin Estate, and that is the wonderful peated single malt, the first peated whiskey we ever released, aged for almost 7 years in a ex-orange liqueur and cognac cask, French oak cask. A stunning whiskey, won gold medal at the Irish Whiskey Awards for best Irish whiskey, 11 years and under, and for good reason. And I think it's an absolute cracking whiskey. It is one of my favorite whiskeys that we've ever released, just because it's so odd, unusual, and flavorful. There's nothing like it in the world of Irish whiskey. But Redemin Estate, David is a missile engineer by trade. Fiona is from the property business, and together they have built this extraordinary distillery that is experimenting. David is experimenting like no other with wood and with distillates, and he's a craft beer, craft whiskey fan. You're going to see some really wacky and wild distillates coming out of Redemin over the coming year, and we want to do another release with them in early 2024 as well, because the peated malt was just went down so well. Lauren, if you don't want to host with us, you could just tell us in advance of a Sunday night you don't want to be here, and we'll let you be.
I have no idea what keeps happening. I am so sorry, everyone. Genuinely.
It's a good job. There's two of us.
What do you say?
It's a good job. There's two of us. You see,
Isn't it? Isn't it? Absolutely. This is why you can't just have me hosting it by myself, or it'll be cutting out every 10 minutes. No use to anyone. Apologies, everyone. I caught the tail end of that, Barry. You were chatting about your Stories and Sips release.
Yeah. And look, Redemin Estate, double distilled. They're making gin, rum. They are experimenters. They are scientists, literally, engineers, and fascinated by their approach. I really like David and Fiona, and it's kind of one of these. I liken Redemin Estate and Shorecross to Killowen without the hype. Their spirit is stunning. Their new make spirit is amazing. They know what they're doing. They just haven't had the cult following, only because they have, and I've said it to them, and they know it, they haven't talked about what they're doing. And they're going to change that. You're going to hear more from them. I see it in their marketing already over the past 2 or 3 months. Things are changing. They're a sleeper right now, a sleeper whiskey. Get in there while you can to get hold of some of their early releases, their Ryan malt, their single malt release. If you ever see our Shorecross single malt, peated malt on auction, snap it up. This is going to be a serious collector's item in years to come, but it's also a great drinker right now. Anytime I see it, I try and get it as well. We've got a few bottles left for our archive, but really big fans, and I'd love to do more with them in the next year as well. That was
actually, your release was probably the first peated whiskey I've genuinely really enjoyed. It's fantastic. Really nice job. Absolutely beautiful.
I think there's Lauren dropping off there on the old internet is another reaffirmation that we need a sponsor, and we will be if there's a brand on here right now, we will shamelessly say no, we will take your funding for AV, for audiovisual requirements. We will take your funding.
Absolutely. Here's hoping it doesn't cut out before we get to the experiences, which is mainly what I'm here for. So that would be a disaster. We'll hope not.
How many have we got so far? We've gone with
left. So
all right, let's count them. Go back to the start.
Copeland, Ecklinville, Hinch, Morandew, which are out for debate. I'm gonna research that. I have a feeling they have potentially made whiskey though. We'll see. I only know them for their poaching. I genuinely, hands up, don't know a lot about them. We'll see.
For now, they're out. So we're on 3.
Redemin.
4.
Who else did we say? We covered Ecklinville. Titanic.
This can't be the last one. You're missing a few.
Wait, no. Well, you're out for debate on Morandew.
Oh, no, Moran was never part of the 6 or 7. So forget Moran. Who else have we got?
We've mentioned them. So we have Copeland, we have Ecklinville, we have Hinch, we have Redemin, and we have Killowen. Then we have Titanic, which are coming up here.
They're missing one.
And that Mourne Dew's in there, but you're discrediting that. Then
No,
the other
there's
one,
one
there was
more.
another one as well, which I had heard virtually nothing about, which was R&R. I mentioned that to you before we came on, which is R&R. They are a distillery. What's their whiskey called again? They have gin and whiskey, backyard whiskey and backyard gin. Google them. It's owned by.
Who are we missing? You know who we're missing?
Jamie's right. Yeah, it's Money Ray, R&R Distillery. Who?
You're missing Boatyard.
Boatyard are in Fermanagh.
Oh, wait, now. Oh, you're right. There's somebody else.
You're way off. Sarah and a vodka. Yeah, so R&R Distillery. Yeah, I'm right. There's another one. So there's technically 8.
All right, listen. We're getting the boxing gloves on now. We have to figure this out. So
Mark's saying I'm right. There's 8. There we are.
So Mourne Dew have. All right. So Mourne Dew have made whiskey.
I think Jamie will know. Jamie will know. Confirm, Jamie, if they've made whiskey.
I like that we're doing this. I like that we're figuring this out live. It shows the research that goes into such a production.
Mark's saying I'm right. So I think they were definitely sourcing from GND, but you still would call them. They're still a distillery. It's Distilleries of County Down.
Imagine relying on us for information. Imagine on planning a trip or an experience on our knowledge and expertise.
Sarah's saying is Belfast not Antrim. Yes.
Here we go.
This is the debate we came up with earlier.
Sarah, are you going to explain this to Sarah?
Yeah. So technically Belfast is split between Down and Antrim. So anything south of the river is County Down. So technically Titanic is County Down. That we put them in there as a little kind of supplement at the end because they are Belfast. But south of the river, County Down. There we are.
So then we're going with Copeland, Ecklandville, Pinch,
Redeemin,
Mourne
Dew,
Killowen,
R&R,
Titanic.
8.
What's this R&R business?
The people, Cheryl's familiar with them. Yeah, they're gin and whiskey and vodka, as Sarah rightly said. Backyard whiskey, backyard vodka. It's owned by an American woman, I believe.
I have a woefully under-updated distillery map on my website of all this is true.
Need an update after this.
A lot of distilleries, and here's the reason why I push back on some of these. There are a lot of distilleries that show whiskey on their front page, Amy, that they didn't make themselves. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One would be down there in County Kerry, Skellig whiskey. They have big pictures of their whiskey. They've not made any whiskey yet to date. Their stills aren't commissioned. So I have a kind of a skeptical but hopeful eye when I look at a website to see is somebody making whiskey, and it's only when they get an official GI commissioning that I'd kind of list them. So I don't know. Look, we're coming out of tonight with a few bits of homework. We have to find more information on R&R.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a brand I've just honestly not really explored, and I don't think, to be honest, they're like I don't think they're really out there in terms of their marketing or anything like that as well. So yeah, certainly one to keep an eye on, as you say.
Right, let's go to south of the River Lagan.
South of the River Lagan, finally Titanic. Now, are you going to say Titanic aren't a distillery because they technically have not started distilling yet?
Oh no, that's an interesting one.
Is that an interesting one?
And you're as right to bring that up as I am to push back on R&R and Mourne Dew. We're here for this kind of debate and discussion. It's the critical thinking our audience expects.
Absolutely. So they did open their doors. I think it was the very end of April this year, 28th of April, I think was the exact date. But they actually haven't started distilling yet. Now that was of 2 weeks ago, so I don't think it's changed in 2 weeks. Yeah, haven't started distilling yet. So they have 3 stills, 3 tiny stills. It's in the Titanic, the pump house and the dry dock of the Titanic. So the founder, the owner is Peter Lavery, who throughout his life he's invested in, I think, various properties. Again, another very entrepreneurial businessman. Although
He
I
won
think
the lottery.
did my exact point, he won the lottery, and this is his labor of love, was to create a distillery in the Titanic pump house. So
This is an interesting one. Like I'd have a lot of interest in this brand. Like Titanic is I grew up in Cove, where the last port of call, the Titanic. It was part of our kind of, we couldn't avoid it, the story of it and its history and the connection with our town. And so it was just part of who we were. And then see the Belfast connection here, the pump house, tiny little building, tiny stills, like you say, just on the dry dock of what would have been kind of the White Star Line, which was the company that owned the Titanic, the White Star Line dry docks, or the graving docks as they call them back then. But I'd have a lot of interest in this because I think the story is amazing. Like that you can have whiskey made in a building that historically was used to probably fill that dock with water. The pump, I think that's what the pump house was, whether it pumped water in or out of the dock to launch the ships after they were ready for their fitting out. It's just an amazing story for Belfast too.
Massively, yeah. So like the original crane is still in that building, and so are the pumps. The pumps, I think, were capable of draining, was it something crazy? It's like 25 or 26 million gallons of water from the dock in 90 minutes. Like 26 million is insane. So yeah, their aim is to be the first working distillery in Belfast in about 90 years. Oh, do you have a bottle? Well, there we are. Nice.
We'll open it up.
Go for it.
Or we'll show it anyway. They have one of the most beautiful brand logos I've ever seen, which is so perfect for them. And it's so understated. I wonder if I can show it if it's not on this box. I'll show it on the box.
I like their logo, the TD, which is the shape of the Titanic. It's nice branding.
But there's a hidden Easter egg on their logo. So this is the bottle. Wait now, let me get a bit closer. So this is the bottle here, right? And there's the logo. And so the logo looks like what? A ship.
Yeah, it's meant to be the Titanic, yeah.
So you got a T and a D, and look what you've got above, little white star for the old White Star Line. This is a stunning logo. That is honestly the most perfect logo in whiskey. It's beautiful.
It's a smart logo. Jamie just said, have they not done small runs? To my knowledge, Jamie, no, because I actually haven't even had the chance to call around and see it yet, but anyone I've spoken to have said that they aren't distilling. So I'm not sure. No updates there.
Have we got another fight in our hands here with Titanic, have we?
Possibly. Possibly, but no, it's a gorgeous area. I mean, you can tie a visit in there. It's open for tours. You can tie a visit in there to the visitor centre as well, which is also a great tour. I think it's actually Northern Ireland's top tourist attraction, the Titanic Museum.
Amazing. And I want to go back and see it since they just put another investment into it over the past 6 months. It's changed again. Yeah. Amazing.
Very interesting, yeah. So the stills are actually suspended above the pump house essentially, and you can see the original crane there just in the middle. So steeped in history.
Quick one there. Sorry, Lauren. Just Tony wants to see this up close, so let me just put this full screen for 2 seconds.
Go for it. Yeah, Richard said there as well. It's like an anchor. Yeah, it's also like an anchor. Absolutely.
Beautiful. All right.
Absolutely. Will we power through in case we get cut off again? I'm paranoid now. I'm scared.
We're not trusting the old internet up in your neck of the woods again. We're actively soliciting a sponsor for audiovisual coverage and take care of the nonsense that we put you through, the absolute hames and an amateur approach we have to broadcasting.
It's shocking. Barry's microphone sound issues a few weeks ago. My Wi-Fi connection, clearly something wrong. We're professionals.
What kind of
Professionals.
hotel is this?
It's a
Honestly,
good
what
job,
kind of hotel?
no one's paying for this.
Imagine if somebody was paying.
Did you open the Titanic? Did you? No.
No. I opened the box, but that's it.
That's it. That's as far as we're going.
Right. What's up next?
Irish Whiskey Experiences is up next. So we're in the final stages. We're 7 days out from the website launch. If you haven't already signed up, there is still time on the website you can see on the screen, www.irishwhiskeyexperiences.com. You'll be the first to hear of our website launch, and of course our inaugural experiences going live next Sunday, the 30th of July. As Barry's already said, thank you Barry, it's in the chat there. As Barry's already said, we'll be jumping on next week along with Anthony Sheehy, to discuss all of the experiences that go live next Sunday, and of course Whiskey Bus 3 as well, which we've had lots of questions about. So we're in the final week, crunch time, getting everything lined up, everything sorted, website finalized. So excited. There are some unbelievable gems of experiences in there that genuinely are not available through anybody else. We're very grateful that we have opportunities to work with these distilleries, with these people who are so accommodating to us and just so willing to open the doors of their distillery, in some cases after hours, after visitor hours, and let us in. So yeah, can't wait.
One of the big announcements that'll happen next Sunday night is Whiskey Bus 3, which is one of our, what we would call our signature whiskey experiences. So we'll have a range of experiences. Some of them will be categorized as a signature. In other words, maybe it's a longer experience, maybe it's got something absolutely out of this world unique, and we'll categorize those specially and individually. But Whiskey Bus is one of those things. It'll always be a signature event of ours, and the signature events is where me, Lauren, and Anthony will be part of them, or one of us will definitely be there. And in many cases, like with the Whiskey Bus, we'll all be there. And it's really where, like, we would look at the Whiskey Bus as our chance to be in the same room, all three of us, with everyone who can participate, so that we can have the crack, hang out, visit places together, drink together at the end of a night, eat together, and we're really looking forward to that. So that's why we're planning more of those Whiskey Buses. But Whiskey Bus 3, what will happen next week is, in addition to our website going live and all of our other experiences being available to review and to ask us about and for us to share on the night, we will walk through step by step a 7-day itinerary for Whiskey Bus 3, which we've teased some of the adventures that are part of that already. It's heading to the Wild Atlantic Way, the west coast of Ireland. We're avoiding Dublin this time. We've focused on Dublin quite extensively over the past 2 Whiskey Buses, the one upcoming one and last year's Whiskey Bus. But Whiskey Bus 3 is heading to the Wild West, and there's much to see and much to do. Lauren, I do believe that you have one such experience, one of the experiences from Whiskey Bus 3 for us to talk about tonight. Before we do that, just the logistics of Whiskey Bus 3 in terms of booking. Whiskey Bus 2 sold out in 13 minutes. How we're going to manage Whiskey Bus 3 is on July 31st, which is Monday, so a week from tomorrow, we'll share the timing of this over the next few days. We'll put the link live to book the experience. So we won't put the link live on the night, because what's going to happen is, if there's such a mad rush and the website crashes and the 3 of us are live streaming at the time, then you're not going to have much of an experience. So what we'll do is, the next day, with our tech support team during office hours in Ireland, we'll have a tech support team ready on standby in case anything is to happen. And then we'll put our Whiskey Bus live on the Monday. First come, first served. It doesn't matter if you've been on the Whiskey Bus before. It's just first come, first served. When the 40 seats are gone, they're gone. And we'll just ask for a deposit to hold your seat. That's it. We won't ask for full payment. You'll pay a third of the cost for it up front, and that's it. The rest will be payable over installments over the few months after you book it. And we'll share all 7 days. We'll share a lot of the experiences, just like we've done for the last 2 experiences. We'll keep some secret. We'll keep some as surprises, things we can roll out and surprise you with on the day or on the week. And it's going to be a great time. So if you're interested at all, March, 15th to the 22nd. It's going to be an amazing week. The timing of it allows us to be part of St. Patrick's Day celebrations in Ireland, which we'll share more of on Sunday. It also allows us to end our whiskey bus the day that Cork Whiskey Fest kicks off. So if you want to extend your trip by an extra 2 or 3 days, the bus will continue to Cork and drop you off in Cork if you want to. And we'll have exclusive access to tickets. I think I'm putting that out there. I don't know if we do or not. Lauren's working on it. We will have some pre-ordering or something in place for Cork Whiskey Fest to ensure that you, who have put in 7 days of hard graft and labour drinking whiskey all around the West Coast, will be able to get access to something in Cork as well. Lauren, what did I miss?
No, you nailed it. Absolutely. We're working with Laurie O'Dwyer, founder of Cork Whiskey Fest, of course, along with his lovely wife. So he's looking at getting us a little bit of discount for you folks. So anyone who's on the whiskey bus will essentially, as Barry said, facilitate your journey down to Cork after we finished our week of festivities.
It's going to be great. Really looking forward to that. Why don't we share, tease like we've done the last 2 weeks, tease a couple of experiences that will get people excited about what we're launching on July 30th.
I think so too. So the first experience, one of the experiences, is part of Whiskey Bus 3. And it actually ties in with the brand we mentioned earlier. And then the second one also ties in with a brand we mentioned earlier and is very fitting with our theme of tonight. Both very different, but really unique experiences. And I'm genuinely so excited. Obviously, Whiskey Bus been involved in the kind of finalizing plans of Whiskey Bus 2, but Whiskey Bus 3 has been the first one I've been involved with from the beginning, and it's really shaping up to be an incredible week. As we said, we're going west. We're starting in Westport, heading to Limerick, Galway, and we're finishing off. This is going to be our last day on Clare Island. So Carl O'Grady, founder of Clare Island Whiskey, has mapped out an incredible day. We'll be spending the full day there with him. So we'll get a ferry crossing from Westport over to Clare Island. We'll have tours. We'll have a tour. Carl will take us through the story of Pirate Queen Grace O'Malley that we mentioned earlier. He'll recount stories of Irish myth, the Irish clan system, the famine, the connections to the US. We'll go around a graveyard, a famine era graveyard as well. We will also have amazing seafood paired with whiskey. There'll be chocolate pairings in there as well. And we can also actually visit and go on to the Dolphin, which is the warehouse, the boat that his whiskey is aged on. You can touch the casks, and then we'll get the ferry back to Westport. But it's just, I'll not give it all away yet. It's going to be an incredible day, packed with history, packed with whiskey, and we get Carl, the founder, to ourselves for an entire day, which is unbelievable. So that will be our final full day of Whiskey Bus 3.
Lauren mentioned 3 cities there, Limerick, Galway and Westport, which are part of this Whiskey Bus number 3. And Clare Island is off the coast of it's in Clew Bay, which is where Westport is, and there's Carl in the boat that is aging his. It's actually not whiskey, believe it or not. It even legally can't be called whiskey because of the nature of it being on a boat. He has to call it a spirit drink, even though the spirit was distilled in Connacht Distillery, a whiskey distillery in Ballina, and then put on the boat. But it is an absolute tourist destination for like high-end tourism. Like, this is behind the scenes with the man whose crazy idea it was to take his family's ferry boat and take it out of, it was lost in a marsh somewhere. He cleaned it out, brought it back to life, and aged whiskey on it. We're going to have an amazing day under the shadow of Grace O'Malley's castle, her home in Clew Bay. It's going to be a really, really great time. That's one of our big days in Whiskey Bus 3. But let's be honest, there's 7 big days in Whiskey Bus 3.
There is. I think the brand that will be the headliner of Whiskey Bus 3. We haven't even talked about that experience yet, and we won't until next Sunday. We'll leave that for next Sunday because it's mad. It's so out there, but it's encapsulating a real true Ireland and true Irish feeling. So
I genuinely don't know who you're referring to because I genuinely don't know who you're meaning here because there's so many.
The headliner.
But I could think of two headliners.
The one we talked about.
Are you thinking the one? Okay. Are you thinking about March 17th?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The reason, yes.
Folks, all we'll say is get your costumes ready.
Don't give it away, Barry. Stop talking. Cut the pot. Cut it. All
right, move on. Next reveal. Next big reveal.
Very quickly on before Barry gives up our whole itinerary before we've even got to next Sunday. The next one then, and I know this will excite an awful lot of you. Just imagine, okay, the distillery's closed for the day. Everyone else has gone home. The only people left on site are you, Jarlath, in this case, so one of the masters, and that's it. You have Ecklandville Distillery, essentially, if you want to, you and your partner, you and your friends, to yourselves. You will have a chance to privately shop in their gift shop. No one else will be there. We'll start off the evening with a storyteller, a local storyteller, to recite tales of the local area. We talked about earlier, poaching, illicit distilling in the Mourne Mountains. You will sit in a warehouse. You will draw cask samples as the storyteller recounts these stories. And then you will make your way into the distillery that you can see there with the lights on, gorgeous at nighttime. They'll keep it open for us, and you will dine on a table in the middle of the distillery with a private caterer who will create courses relevant to the flavours of each Domville whiskey. Jarlath will be there, Seamus O will be there, who I know many of you know very well, and you will just get a private, immersive experience in Ecklandville completely by yourself, which is amazing. Massively excited about this one. It was one that the concept of it, both me and Barry have been really excited about it, because when can you tell people that you had dinner in the middle of a distillery privately with the masters and among stills? You can't.
No words.
Candlelit dinner with Jarlath. Essentially.
This is one of our signature experiences, and it won't be available all year round. So the reality of things like this is we may have 2 or maybe 3 options a year, in the sense of the dates are negotiable, but the distillery is a working distillery. They produce whiskey. They're in the business of producing whiskey and selling it. They're not necessarily in the business of hosting private dinners for 2 or 4 or 6 people in the distillery, but for us they are, but it'll be 2 or 3 times. So what we'll do is, when these become available, it'll be a case of first come, first served. When they're booked out for the year, there'll be no more availability for another year. We'll have other experiences, other distilleries and brands that'll be different to this. But this is, for those of you who are Ecklandville Distillery fans, Dunville's fans, I don't know that there's a more unique experience than this. We'll work with you to, if you're staying in Belfast, we'll send a Range Rover or a Mercedes E-Class to pick you up and bring you out the Ards Peninsula, bring you back home to Belfast again. You want to stay overnight in Belfast, we'll help you. We'll take care of accommodation for you. Just maybe a once in a lifetime chance to experience something out of this world. Maybe that for the whiskey fan, that once in a lifetime experience. Absolutely.
And as you, just to follow on from your point, we have to respect the time of these people. That's why these experiences might only be available 2 times a year. Some, as Barry said, maybe a little bit more, maybe 3, maybe 4. But we're so grateful that these people have been so accommodating to us, to allow us to have these type of experiences. And we fully appreciate that Jarlath isn't free every night of every week or every other week to sit down and have a dinner. So we have to respect his time, keep him happy, keep the brands happy, and also provide an unbelievable experience. So yeah, this one is unbelievable. It really is, and we're so thankful to Dunvilles and to the team at Ecklandville for accommodating us.
So here's a little insider tip for those of you who might be thinking about Whiskey Bus number 3. When we launch Whiskey Bus number 3 for March next Sunday night or next Monday officially, if you had an interest in coming to Ireland a few days before or staying a few days after and tying this on to your Whiskey Bus trip, let's just say that's the perfect opportunity. And we're going to check availability now in the next few days to make sure it is available. But like that'll be the same with a number of our experiences that we'll offer from July 30th. If you think, you know what, I'm already over in Ireland, I'm spending the money to get there, I'm already there for 7 days, why not add an amazing add-on? Then just that's an option.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people are doing that this year for Whiskey Bus 2. There's a lot of you coming over beforehand for a week or a few days. So it's perfect opportunity to do it. Absolutely. Honestly, even August, we can inquire, we can see if it's possible, if the interest is there. I can speak to Peter and Jarlath and the team at Ecklandville and see if it's possible. I know a lot of you, when we bring the bus back to Dublin Airport, a lot of you are heading further north to Belfast, so could be possible. All you got to do is that.
If you'd like to be kept up to date on what we're launching next week and then the regular emails that'll go out thereafter, go to irishwhiskeyexperiences.com and just pop your email address in the box there and we'll keep you up to date. And you can follow along on Irish Whiskey Experiences on Facebook and Instagram as well. We have next week's our big week, a big night. Anthony will join us as soon as he knows he's supposed to. And we'll be sharing as many experiences as we can get through on the night. We'll be sharing the Whiskey Bus number 3. We'll take all your questions and inquiries about whiskey experiences and travel to Ireland. And it'll be a real experience-focused night next week. So coming live to you again next week, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's all about Irish Whiskey Experiences next week. And that's an exciting time because we get to support the brands in new ways. You've all been so great as a community in supporting the whiskey brands that we brought to your attention through this live stream, through our Facebook group and through our whiskey club. And now we have a new way to support the brands and bring them business and financial support as we pay for our time with them. And I think that's another revenue stream that's going to be helpful to them as they keep the lights on while they mature their whiskey.
100%. And I mean, what a privilege and what an honor it is for us to work with some of the best Irish brands on these experiences as well, whether it be experiences like this or the Whiskey Bus. It's just unbelievable, and that's exactly the aim of what we wanted to do. We want to highlight not just the liquid but the people and the places that make up the brands and create their brand identity. So yeah, it's unbelievable.
What else do we have, Lauren? Is that it?
I think we're at the Shanae stage of the game. Just another reminder, if you haven't already signed up, please do. I saw a few people saying they had signed up there, which is brilliant. So the website's on the screen. Barry put it in the chat there. If you haven't already, there's still loads of time to sign up, so please do. And that is us. That's us now, as they say in County Down.
May I just say, you have been nothing but the finest of hosts, and you've done a great job. Like, great packaging of the narrative, the story. We will ignore the internet outages which had nothing to do with you. But honestly now, fair play. Great out host that you were.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Apologies again about my laptop issues. I think it just decided it wanted to do a little update twice there. One to update and the other to restart. So apologies everyone. We'll get through a week yet with no technical issues. I promise.
We'll have to disable that auto updating feature there now on your laptop.
We will. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Great night. Lots learned about County Down. If you joined late, we have a replay available on YouTube at all times. You can watch this anytime you want. We'll send this out via email as well on our Stories and Sips weekly mash bill email. The next you'll be hearing from me is this Wednesday when we launch our Stories and Sips Whiskey Club bottling, our collaboration with Killowen Distillery, with Brendan Carty, the master distiller and owner, founder of Killowen. Very excited for that. Again, I can't stress enough how thankful we both are for your support in what we're doing here to bring more eyeballs to Irish whiskey, and looking forward to finding lots and lots more ways to do that as well over the coming months. When we say we're only getting started, trust us, because the things that we're sharing on screen are, speaking about Titanic, they are the tip of the iceberg. Everything else is below the waterline right now, and 2/3 of what we're talking about is below the waterline. So we'll bring a lot more to the fore when it's ready, when it's go time, but there's lots there.
We can't wait. Exciting week ahead.
Exciting week ahead. No, I hope she doesn't sack me after my performance tonight, Tom. I thought I was a good assistant.
He was very good stepping in for me when my laptop decided to have a little fit. So I appreciate that. People are complaining, you haven't sang in a while. You actually haven't.
Listen, this is not the forum for singing. That has been transferred. Because here's the thing now. I'm not a singer, as has been made evidently clear every time I open my mouth to sing.
Well, we know that.
I'm moving. I have to decide where things live, and from now on, to save my voice for the wonderful folks who join us on a whiskey bus, I'm going to move all my singing to the whiskey bus, and then one night you won't be able to shut me up, and that's it.
No, you have to pay for your voice. We're paying for your talents.
These talents don't come free, Lauren. The amount of money I've spent on singing lessons and honing these fine pipes.
I mean, we all got to make $1 somehow, so fair enough. And the triangle as well. We're gonna ring it out. Old triangle. Anyway, enough about that. Sláinte, everyone. Good night.